This room is so interesting in that there are 2 screens. There's one of me, and we're spread out all over the place. But why don't we talk about meditation and mindfulness, because there's no other way to get into whatever interesting surprise life is offering you at any given moment. So I like to say, easing into the present moment. There was another title I used to use, Inquiring Minds Want to Know, what does the present moment really have to offer? Okay? But the emphasis I want today, and let's see, is why and now. So I'm going to ask you to think over the next couple slides, of the 24 people who signed up for this, you were the 12 people who made it. Okay? What brought you here? Why? Because when we talk about meditation and mindfulness, we want to talk about intention and the power of intention. Right? So the focus of today will be the science of meditation, how it works. Right? The power and importance of intention. All right? There's a wonderful mindfulness scholar, Jeremy Hunter, who says, forget about managing your time, manage your attention, and make sure your attention is in line with your intention. Okay? The secrets of the breath. We're going to do a breathing technique in just a minute. Even though you're eating, which isn't usually part of a meditation group, we can still breathe. I'll try one thing with you. We want to emphasize the art of the purposeful pause. When people start to learn about meditation, they think, oh, I'm supposed to take 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day. No, you do these things where they fit in your day. If they add up to 10 minutes, that's nice. Right? You begin where you are. Right? So we'll talk about the purposeful pause. We teach a class called Mindful Leadership. My colleague Michael Conley and I facilitate that. We also facilitate 3 open meditation groups a week. So you're going to learn some things today, but the real point is having opportunities to practice. And there are actually 4 open meditation groups a week at Boston College. One's on the Newton campus. So you'll have opportunities. But when we teach mindful leadership, everyone likes the purposeful pause best of all. And then we'll do a guided meditation. We may mix it all through. And if any of you want these slides, just send me an email and I'll send you these slides. Okay? All right. Team breath. You could do this at the beginning of your meetings. You could do this publicly with your group. You could do this secretly. Okay? I'll tell you some other things you can do secretly. But I'm going to show you what it is. Do you know what belly breathing is? All right, so like when you breathe in, put your hands on your stomach for a minute. Stop chewing. When you take a nice deep breath in, does your stomach go out or in? Out, right? Some people find they say in. It doesn't matter. Usually it goes out because the diaphragm is a muscle just below your lungs, and your lungs fill up, it pushes your belly out, right? So what we're going to do is 3 breaths. I'm going to have you, I'll tell you first. You're going to take one of those nice deep inhales through your nose. You're going to just exhale through your mouth. Then we'll do a nice deep inhale through the nose. Then exhale through an open mouth. Go, ah. Okay? And then the third one is going to be take a nice deep belly breath in through the nose and exhale like you're blowing through a straw. That actually extends your exhale and triggers the relaxation response. So we'll talk some more about that. If at night you have trouble sleeping or you have pain, if you sort of breathe in and then imagine your exhale going all the way to your toes, it'll relax your body and help with that. Okay? Also, the belly breath brings in 10 times more oxygen than the shallow breath. Okay, so let's just do that now. Just put aside your potato chips for 1 second. Right? Let's take a nice deep belly breath in through your nose. And just exhale through a relaxed mouth. Nice deep belly breath in through your nose. Exhale going ah. Ah. Nice deep belly breath in through your nose. Exhale like you're blowing straw through a straw. Now just stay settled like that for a moment. And just ask yourself, why did I come to this today? And when you're ready, just open your eyes, if you've been closed eye or whatever. And if you could just give me a few ideas, like what brought you here? What were you looking for? Did something come to mind?
Start the semester off right.
Let's get off to a good start. Anything else? What's your interest in meditation and mindfulness?
Taking a minute in a busy day to kind of just slow things down a little bit.
Awesome. Right? Anyone else?
Learning to let go.
Learning to let go.
Mental treadmill.
Okay. All right. So be aware of your why, because if you have a good why, we have lots of ways to teach you how. And the how is going to be the one that works for you. But sometimes the most important time in the whole day is the rest we take between 2 deep breaths. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about what meditation is. A technique for training the mind. It builds focus and present moment awareness. It's a practice of uncritically focusing your attention on one thing at a time. And I want to emphasize the word uncritically, and we'll talk more about that. But essentially, it is the nature of the mind that it wants to fluctuate. Our mind wanders. So you can be sitting here listening to me and then thinking, oh, I have to get this for dinner. Oh, I forgot this back at my office. Oh, how is that meeting going to go? It's the nature of the mind to wander. All right? And sometimes it wanders in directions that aren't really that helpful to us. Okay? There's a YouTube video on emotional first aid, and the presenter talks about one of the hardest things for human beings is we can get into ruminating. Right? We'll talk about the brain and the fact that your body doesn't know that these things you're ruminating about aren't actually happening right now. So if we have a disagreement and I keep living that over and over in my mind, there's parts of my brain that keep having cortisol and stress hormones going out into my system because it doesn't know it's not happening right now. So we're actually reliving the stressors over and over again. Same reason why if we go to movies, the movie isn't really, we're not really in the jungle, but we can be like, oh, okay? So it's important to notice where your mind is wandering and to make some choices. So meditation is just like bicep curls for the brain. It's really this simple. You establish a focus, then you become distracted, because that's how the mind is. Then you become aware that you're distracted, then you release the distraction and return to your focus. And you release with compassion and gentleness. All right? Okay. It helps just to give your mind a job. There's a lovely little video on YouTube where this one of the monks, that is an Olympic meditator that they do the research on, talks about you just have to give your mind a little job. Right? So that's part of what meditation is. Now, there are different kinds of meditation. Right? So one could be a focused attention practice. I'm going to just focus my mind on this word. I'm going to focus my mind on my breath. I'm going to focus my mind on a particular emotion. Okay? Now, the way the relaxation response was discovered was Herbert Benson was doing research with Harvard medical students. And one form of meditation is you're told count to 10 over and over again. And these students, of course, what happens is you count to 10, you find yourself up at like 75, and you just return to 1 and count to 10. But it upset the Harvard medical students so much that they could not efficiently and consistently count to 10 that he said, for you, just say 1 over and over again. And he had them on biofeedback equipment, and so we discovered the relaxation response. Right? So one might be deliberately focusing the mind on something, but gently realizing when my mind jumps off, oh, let's go back to thinking about the number 1 or whatever. Another approach is open monitoring, and in that you just say, okay, let all the thoughts come, but don't engage with any of them. Just all of my thoughts are like a movie in my head, and I'm just watching as if I'm in the theater. I'm not engaging with anyone. I might say, oh, that's from the past, or that's from the present, or that's interesting, right? So meditation is one of the ways we discover we are not our thoughts. We are not our feelings. They're processes that happen energetically within us. I was quite surprised when I learned that. I'll talk in a second more about how open monitoring meditations help us. But the third type of meditation is compassion or loving kindness. And in that meditation, all we're doing is imagining or remembering someone we love and basically saying, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you live in ease. There's different ways that people word that. But if I imagine someone I love, it could be, even just a pet. Often people will imagine a pet, right? And then we work our way into imagining this and sending love to someone, and then maybe dealing with people we have a little difficulty with, sending love to them, right? Ultimately redirecting that love back into ourselves. All forms of meditation are laying new pathways in the brain, okay? The self-help programs teach meditation, and they will say, when you're recovering from something and you've gotten into some jams with people, people say, look, just pray for that person. God, it's very powerful, right? It's very powerful. If we started to extend this kind of energy towards people that we are troubled with, okay, it changes the next time we see them. The dynamic is shifting internally, right? And again, if you have an intention to have more peace in your life or to be not rattled by the millions of things that come our way, this is one set of practices that help make that a reality. So, experiment and find the one that works for you, okay? I like breath-focused meditation. My colleague Michael just says, it is so boring, right? So there'll be one that works for you. And in the open meditation groups, what we do is spend a little time talking about a practice, and then we meditate together. So you'll have opportunities to find something. A moment to talk about distraction meditation and how it works. Some of you know Joe Tetch. He's a professor here for many years. He really liked distraction meditation. He said, basically the animal brain has a natural tendency to broaden its attention to the horizon, right? So an animal is always aware of what's happening in its environment. For human beings, we are broadening our attention to the external environment, but also internally, our attention is drawn to what we are thinking, what's happening for us. Now, in order to hold jobs down, we have to focus on what the job requires. Right? So we are forced to focus our attention and suppress attention to thoughts and feelings. But over time, that creates a lot of fatigue. And if you do distraction meditation for 10 or 20 minutes a day, you just let all the distractions come flooding in. It clears the mind and reduces mental fatigue. Right? This is really simple. It didn't get as much attention for a long time because they don't have to sell this to you. It doesn't require a drug. Right? But now the culture is so overstimulated, people are really needing this kind of thing. So the benefits of meditation, often the ones we talk about in the workplace, is people are better able to focus, right? Bicep curls for the brain. I can focus, therefore I'm more productive. By the way, I'm more focused, I'm more productive, I'm not feeling as distressed. We'll talk in detail about that, so I make better decisions. What I want to add to that mix is the reality that because our systems are calm, we're less reactive. We're more able to respond to what actually presents itself to us. All right? We're more open to new ideas, therefore we're more creative. We're often more collaborative. We're not on edge and on the defensive, because we're taking care of relieving the toxins that stress builds up in the body. We're more compassionate. We're more rested. How many of you have trouble sleeping? Anybody here? A few people? Okay. 42% of Americans suffer from sleep disturbance. All right? Just recently, anxiety has replaced depression as the #1 thing that people ask for help with. Okay. Why? We live in a VUCA world. This was a term that was coined by military planners in the 90s. The world is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's even before our most recent administration in the White House. It was already that way, okay? So imagine. Also, the rise of social media. It's quite astonishing to see every second, right? Not every minute, every second, 7,500 tweets, almost 1,400 Instagram photos, 2 million emails, 69,000 texts, probably more today. We watch 119,000 YouTube videos. Right? So the thing is, our attention is pulled in many different directions. We are continually provoked. So there's a phenomenon called continuous partial attention. That's paying attention to a lot of things all at once, just giving it a little bit of your attention so you don't miss anything, right? It's not the same as multitasking, but actually the brain is not designed for multitasking. The brain is designed to do one thing at a time, right? What's happening, and it focuses on that. With this though, have you ever been sitting with someone who their attention was not fully with you? How many of you have been sitting with someone and they're sort of looking at their cell phone? Okay. I tell people, if you want to talk about emotional intelligence, your emotional intelligence will go up 100 points if you just don't look at your phone while you're with me. Okay. And the younger we are, the harder it is to do that. Okay. So every 3 minutes, we have a distraction, the average amount of time between workplace distractions. But it takes 23 minutes to get focused on the task, to really engage with what we're trying to do. So we're like, again, pulled. 150 times a day is the number of times we check our phones. Though I was talking to one of my nephews, he said he thought he checked his phone more than that. All right? 47% of our waking hours are spent thinking about what isn't going on. So if you just start to notice, what am I thinking about? Mostly we're jumping ahead into the future with anticipation or anxiety oftentimes, or we're rethinking about something in the past with regret. Right? Good for you if you will replay positive memories, because that does something good for, remember that part of the brain we're going to talk about in a second that doesn't know what you're thinking about isn't actually happening right now? Right? Okay. So our question is, are you brainful or are you mindful? Let's talk about what the brain's concerned with, really. Keeping you alive. That's its job, keeping everything functioning. So it says eat food when it's available because you don't know when food will be available next time. Many centuries we did not have the abundance of food that we have right now, nor did we have so many foods that were not actually engineered by nature. Okay? So conserve your energy, because you don't know what's coming down the pike, and reproduce, because there's safety in numbers. So the brain is concerned for survival and safety, which means it's particularly on alert for anything bad that might happen. The bias, if the yellow berries made us sick, then yellow berries take up a big space in the brain, because we're not going to make that mistake again, are we? So we have a negativity bias. And the brain is sloppy in its estimation of what is dangerous for us, because it's better safe than sorry. So we'll talk in a second about the amygdala. It's good, it saves us, but it's not particularly accurate. Right? Because better safe than sorry. And the brain loves drama. If it bleeds, it leads. Brain loves novelty. Okay? Because there were things happening in the horizon that we needed to be aware of and that attract our attention. Consequently, we are provoked all day, so we're anxious. That keeps us awake, and we use drugs to go to sleep. This makes sense to you so far? I mean, please raise your hand and stop me if I'm saying something that isn't from really Captain Obvious. Right? Okay, let's talk about stress in the brain. Dan Siegel has a wonderful way that he shows people about their brain, because we need to know how our system works. All right? I mean, I don't need to know everything about how my car works, but I need to know how to drive it. I need to know it needs fuel. There's a few things I need to know. You don't have to be a doctor, but we all need to know this. All right, so he explains it this way. He said, at the base of your brain, right back here, are all the things that run the body. All the autonomic nervous system, the things that if we had to remember, we probably would not have survived. I don't have to remember to breathe. I don't have to remember to digest food. I don't have to remember what my body temperature is supposed to be, right? All those things are taken care of by these systems, okay? Now, the next part of that, so that's the base of the brain. In the center of the brain is the amygdala. Have you heard of the amygdala? It's a little organ or whatever, I'm not sure really what to call it, but it's watching out for everything that's happening in the environment. It happens to only be concerned about right now and 10 minutes from now. Like it's really going to just keep you alive. And if it sees anything that reminds it of something dangerous that happened to you, it's going to take an action. So whenever we walk into any setting, the first thing our brain does is says, are we safe here? And this is all happening below consciousness, right? There are things we explicitly remember, but there are things that are buried in our consciousness that are implicit memories. We might be reacting to something that's not happening now. Our system might be reacting to a memory we have, and we're not even aware of it, where these sensations are coming from, all right? If the amygdala says we're safe, then the brain can learn. It's connected closely to the hippocampus where learning and memory happen. But if we're not safe, it's going to set up, we're going to be on the defensive. We're going to be watching out. Learning doesn't happen in that case, okay? The amygdala, in order to declare an emergency, whoa, danger, danger, warning, warner, only needs a half a second. The top of the brain is the prefrontal cortex. I have it as a little graduate there, where thinking and reasoning and problem solving happens. It takes 28 seconds to form a thought. The amygdala only needs a second or a second and a half to declare an emergency, right? So you see how we might be provoked or unable to concentrate and not be aware of what's happening. Now, this is all connected to the stress response. But when the amygdala declares an emergency, big things happen. I want you to notice that stress is a threat perceived from an internal or an external cue, like this argument that I had this morning that I keep reliving, for instance, right? That's taking my attention from what's happening in the present moment, where I actually am driving my car. All right? When the amygdala delivers an alarm signal to the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and all those gear men running everything in your body, big things happen. Adrenaline floods nerve endings. Blood clotting, time is reduced in case you're in it's a fight or flight thing, right? The blood pressure rises. There's a lot of sugar pumped into the system. The cholesterol and fat, it's like so I can have energy to run. Right? Now, this system saves us, all right? If I'm walking around here, I'm not really looking at where the chairs are. I have had this experience. I was in front of dining service and I'm walking backwards. I don't know, I started to catch my foot on something. And my amygdala said, it would be great not to fall down in front of 140 people who would all be very concerned for you. So anyway, it did what it needed to do, and I was saved, okay? But if the thing that was throwing me off was a worry or a concern, and I wasn't really aware of how much I was ruminating on it, and I didn't have a way to turn that off, it would, after a while, you could see how this really depletes systems. 60 to 90% of what people go to doctors for is about stress. And it goes everywhere in the system, okay? So this system needs to come on, save us, and be turned off. Really, it's anxiety that keeps the system going. Right? So fear is about, again, it saves us. There's no part of this that is any danger to us. We just need to know how it operates, because that activation system, think of that as the gas pedal, takes a lot of energy, right? And the parasympathetic system is rest and digest. Unfortunately for us, that has to be turned on consciously, all right? So we're not in charge of the on button, but we are in charge of the off button. But if we're not aware, we don't know that we need to exercise that. Heart rate slows down, blood pressure falls, breathing slows and settles to normal, muscles soften, tension is released. Okay? So this is how the system is set up. We can see why meditation is so helpful. Mindfulness, meditation, prayer, visualization, yoga, and breathing techniques are practices that strengthen our familiarity and our access to the calming response. We are creating new pathways in the brain. When X trigger happens, we might remember oh, that used to really get me. Now I just go, I guess that's their problem. We're creating a new pathway. Meditation, visualization, prayer, breathing techniques, they're all sort of in the same neighborhood, right? And they're natural, powerful ways. So one thing that's important is you need to know how your system signals distress to you. It's not the same for everyone. Some people will find I can't really remember things, I can't concentrate, I can't make good decisions. I'm just frazzled. Ever do that? People ask you, what do you want? You go, I don't know. You answer, I don't know. I want you to stop asking me. Okay, time out. Or it might show up emotionally. For me, I would be more likely if I say yes to too many things and then start to feel overwhelmed, I'll be irritable. And usually I'm not. Okay, so I'm like, okay, time out, time out. Look at this, a sense of loneliness and isolation, depression. Right? Might be physical clues, aches, pains. Because all of those things that happen all over the body shuts down digestion if you're under threat. Joe Tetz used to say, if there's a black bear in the corner, your body isn't worried about the flu. It's worried about getting away from the black bear. So a lot of like irritable bowel syndrome and many sort of intestinal problems are really connected to stress. Right? And then behavioral cues. I'm eating too much, I'm sleeping too much, I don't feel like going out. Do you see yourself in one of those quadrants? Has everybody got something you're, oh, yep, that's it for me? Because a big part of mindfulness and meditation is noticing. And if your system is signaling distress to you, it's like if there's a crying baby. You don't just listen to the baby, right? Hopefully you know what to do when or your alarm clock. You don't just sit and listen to the alarm clock. These are the alarms going off if you're experiencing these things. And then it's just, as soon as you have some mechanism to listen, it'll shift. The brain's concerns are loudly and continuously stated. Harvard has interesting studies. They're the ones that say we have 70,000 thoughts a day. We could go off in a whole direction trying to figure out how they figured that out. Or they're the ones that say 47% of the time we're thinking about things that aren't happening. Just how did you exactly figure that out? But anyway, brainfulness is a state where you're totally inside of that. The brain is mistaken for the self. The person is saying, I am my brain, without really thinking that directly. It's like that guy watching television and compulsively eating. His brain is choosing the channels. He's not really thinking, right? The brain is your automatic pilot. How many of you have driven home and then got home to your driveway and not remembered getting off the highway? Everybody, right? So the brain does not want to spend the same amount of time every time it does a task as was required when we had to learn the task. We want to learn it, and the brain wants it to be automatic. So if we're not thinking, the brain is quite happy to drive. All right? Mindfulness is about noticing. What am I thinking? So wouldn't you like to let your self-critical, obsessive mind go bug somebody else for a while? Sometimes I like to just take this thought, put it over there. Right? So mindfulness is that first step of noticing. So when we say, why should we meditate? Because there's a lot of beauty around us and we're not picking up on it if we're not there. Right? Because we have big brains with compelling thoughts, and if we're lost in our thoughts or in our devices, there's a lot of restorative possibilities that we're not experiencing. And this is important because coming to our senses requires a bit of practice. Just do it won't work, just like if someone handed you a guitar and said, just play it. Well, just meditate. Right? You're creating the neural pathways. Every time you say, what am I thinking? Let me take a breath. Meditation is the formal practice that leads to the ability of using the brain instead of being used by it. Now, I use meditation and mindfulness pretty interchangeably because mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the moment without judgment. And meditation is doing that for more moments. It's being at home. It's sort of being present, right? Again, paying attention in the moment on purpose without judgment. So let's talk about judgment for just a second. If I were going to judge you, or let me go back. Have you been judged recently? What happens in the body when you feel someone is judging you? Can you share a couple comments? What happens in your body when you feel someone is judging you? Tension, withdrawal, right? Notice what happens in the body. Mindfulness is noticing without judgment. And we have to be often mostly concerned about our judgments of ourselves, right? See, those little gearmen, they take everything literally. If you say, I'm going to die, I'm going to lose my job, they don't like me, we'll lose the house. These guys are just, the amygdala takes everything. They take it literally, right? So these judgments are really important. If you have a question, stop me. There we go. But notice what happens with judgment in the body. Notice how the sense of being judged feels. Being excluded, being ignored are very painful feelings for human beings. We're social beings, right? So paying attention in the moment on purpose, with intention, but without judgment, right? Let's continue. So the path for growth through mindfulness is we gain awareness so that we can recognize and transform negative states and cultivate positive states. Because that's a whole lot easier for us to live healthy, right? Again, we're creating new pathways in the brain. We're choosing where to place our attention rather than let our brain travel in familiar circuits that may no longer be relevant for who we are or how we want to be today. The first step is noticing, where am I right now? In the red zone or in the green zone? So let's do again. Mindfulness is noticing body sensation, emotion, and thoughts. So let me just ask you to do this now. When you're afraid, or when you're frustrated, or when you're jealous, just notice what that does to your face. What does that do to your hands? Do you feel yourself wrinkling up? Notice what anger does. Do you feel yourself tightening up? All right? Just for a minute, just do that. Tighten up. Make a face for me. And I'm the one on film, so you should be pretty relaxed. Right? Hold that, hold that, hold. Now release. Let's do that again. Just tense, tense, tense. Even your legs, everybody running. Now release. One thing we'll do with folks sometimes is tension and release so that we can recognize relaxation. One form of meditation is body scan. Just taking your mind and visiting all the parts of the body and letting them release tension. Now in the green zone, how do you feel? What happens in the body when you feel safe? Let's notice the difference in those sensations. Because after a while, as people do this even a little bit, they begin to say, oh, why am I so aggravated? Right? We're not our aggravation. Okay? When we're brainful, we think we are the thought, we are the feeling. Okay? And that's not the case. This gives us a little bit of distance. So the idea is to be aware of the red zone and what it feels like for you, and to have pathways to cultivate the green zone. Okay? Now, let's talk again about emotions. The heart is a muscle, right? And the body is electric, right? There's a lot of electricity in the body. The heart is a muscle. It uses electricity to do its work, to pump. Anytime you have an electric current, you create an electromagnetic field. Every emotion has an electric signature. So in that, and these can be obviously measured, in that top slide there, what emotion do you think the researchers had instructed the person to feel? Got a guess?
Fear, anxiety.
Frustration. What we were just doing, I'm frustrated. Okay? So, I mean, when we're doing that, now, if I'm going to run and save myself, you can see how all that energy goes someplace useful. But like when we're just living with that, it impairs our ability to think. What do you suppose, because these were the heart rhythms, what do you suppose the person was feeling in the lower slide? Peaceful. Compassion, right? When we are feeling compassion, heart, mind, and emotions are aligned and in sync. Right? Loving kindness, meditation is basically a compassion practice, right? And it is, to me, amazing. So it facilitates brain function. We are most able to think. We are most creative. We are most alert. We are most centered. We are most focused. We are most responsive. We are most open when we are feeling compassion. I think that's like a brilliant design. Isn't that like amazing? We are at our best when we are feeling compassion. And we transmit these electrical signatures. Our thoughts and emotions affect the heart's magnetic field, which energetically affects those in our environment, whether or not we're conscious of it. So we're like little transmitters. Now, when you come into a room and someone's been arguing, do you like pick up on it? Have you ever walked in and go like, whoa, what happened here? Okay. Have you ever even had a feeling someone was looking at you or staring at you, and then you turn around and they're like staring at you? That's because there's energy transmitted into the environment. So again, what's a good why to do these practices? For our own health, for our own ability to live well, and also what we bring into the field. So we now ask people like, hey, what are you transmitting in the field? Okay. Those two slides come from a program called Resilience Advantage, which is designed for the workplace. So teams do that together, and then they might say, what are we putting out in the field here? Brain circuits that contribute to lasting well-being. There's a researcher by the name of Richie Davidson who's written a book called Altered Traits, and he's sort of the most widely recognized researcher on the science of meditation. He says that, he talks about 4 states that will make for lasting well-being.
Lasting what?
Well-being. The ability to maintain those positive states. So I fall out of the green zone, how quickly can I get back into the green zone? The ability to recover from negative states. Guess what? If we don't notice them, now if I notice them and I judge myself, I'm only adding fuel to that fire, right? If we don't notice them, we can't even practice this, right? The ability to focus and avoid mind wandering. Because without intention and attention, our mind is just going to wander in whatever's like handy. Could be Candy Crush. I don't know, right? The ability to be generous. So what does it feel like in your body when you're generous? What happens with your body language when you're feeling generous? Yeah. When you're feeling generous, right?
Uplifted.
Yeah. Connected. Paige?
I was just going to say connected, relaxed,
Yeah.
approachable.
Yeah. And so when people are depressed, they'll say, go work in a soup kitchen. Step out of yourself. Use your time. Be generous. Okay? Because that's what's best for you. Right? And then it builds from there. But even noticing the impact of generosity as a feeling, okay, what it does in the system. So mindfulness is basically developing awareness of our awareness. Right? We're cultivating and observing ego. This is a part of us that is somewhat unshakable because we're just not rattled by the things that come up. Amy Klobuchar was talking the other day, so she's running for president. She was telling her story, and she said, when there were boulders on my path, I never thought of them as obstacles. I thought of them as the path. What a different perspective than if somehow we have expectations for a certain path and it's not going our way. So that's like sort of adding a lot of work. I don't know. So awareness of our awareness. And part of what we're wanting to cultivate intentionally is a sense of openness, a sense of spaciousness, an ability to see the whole picture. As compared to a narrow view and really emphasizing only a part of something, that contracted view. And when we notice generosity is open, pain is a contraction. in every instance, pain is a contraction, right? We pull in, we defend ourselves, if something hurts. Just follow your body language. It will tell you quite a lot of what we need to know. Is this making sense? So we're going for a sense of openness and spaciousness, my ability to see the large view. Can we talk about the context here? Could you tell me more about that? Stability of mind, the harmony of intention and attention. Right? That I know why I'm here, and that's where I'm going to put my attention. I might not be here because I want to develop a mindfulness practice. I might be here because I want to be more relaxed or I want to sleep better. This is one set of possibilities that can help you. The harmony of intention and attention. I'm putting my attention. If I want to go from here to the Cape, I have to have that intention and I have to put my attention on the roads that are going to take me there. Same thing. As compared to feeling distracted or scattered and not just having my intention and my attention aligned. Mindfulness is paying attention on purpose, with an intention, right? Without judgment, in order to notice. Step one is noticing. It's just, and by practice, it's not like you have to do this over and over again. It's just like, oh, it's in my awareness. Okay? Finally, flexibility. Health is really flexibility. Healthy relationships, sometimes I decide, sometimes you decide. Sometimes I take care of you, sometimes you take care of me. But even in thinking, letting go of the moment, one meditation practice is letting thoughts arise and even seeing them like they're in the sky and then they dissolve. There's like a million ways to do this kind of work, right? But flexibility as compared to getting stuck, caught in a spinning mind or emotional density that powerfully conditions moment-to-moment experience. So oftentimes we learn through opposites, we learn through contrasts, like we say, if you offer a child a piece of cake or a piece of mind, the child will take the cake every time. Because the child doesn't know about disturbed mind. But the adults will go, what do you have in the piece of mind menu? All right? Rather than be stuck. So we sort of know disturbance of mind. We know this side of the chart, and we'll know that side of the chart because we experience this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? So again, the practice is noticing. So the art of the purposeful pause. It's mindfully performing a regular activity, not for longer, but just the quality of your attention changes. So like there's one person who says her drive to work, she turns off the radio, and now she like really appreciates the landscape. I don't know if she's coming from Tewksbury or somewhere. Or someone who said, I never really tasted coffee. I used to grab coffee and run out the door. I never tasted coffee until now because I put my attention on it. Right? It's really so simple. Or there was a man who said, I never realized until now that every time my 7-year-old son talked to me, he was basically speaking to my belt buckle. So now when his son comes, he says, what? And goes down to his eye level. Right? There's one writer who talks about the generosity, the sweetness of the present moment. And this is sort of tapping into that treasure that's there for us all the time. So a purposeful pause is a moment in the day when you choose to notice. And all it takes is to focus on the present by feeling the breath or hearing the sounds in your surrounding or noticing the sensations of your body, because your body is always in the present moment. Right? Deepak Chopra says we will have far less stress if we focus on sensation in the body, like the breath, if we experience gratitude. There's 3 things. Anyway, I'll remember the others. But just this idea that the body is there for us in so many ways. I know one writer who sort of says your body is kind of like your dog. It will always listen to you. It'll do things that hurt it, but it'll always listen to you. So this is about listening to your dog. All right. Purposeful pause. It helps to have a few minutes of regular practice and to choose a trigger. So I'm going to ask you to do that right now for just a second. Whether it's when there's a sunset, I'm going to enjoy the sunset. Or often I'll say to people, when you go outside of the building or you get up out of your car, just look at the sky. Just pause. I also think, how we use the phrase uplifting? Probably physiologically there's something good that happens when we look up, that the gear people do for us. So whether it's, some people will consciously breathe every time they go through a doorway. Can you choose a cue right now? And we'll go around just saying, what's going to be your cue? Sunset, doorway, when you get home, getting out of your car. Do you have something? When you're just going to consciously stop, pause, breathe, notice. Do you have anything? When I arrive at work, before I come in. I go out, right? The sunset.
Definitely the sunset.
Definitely the sunset.
When I get out of the car.
When I get out of the car. Yes?
Every time I see a flower.
Aha, every time I see a flower.
Coffee.
Coffee? I am going to taste my coffee, dear God.
Into the door.
And to the door.
I don't know.
There's so many to pick from.
I try to do that now. Like I'll go out every day during lunch and just watch everybody run around, and then like I'm not running,
Yeah.
so I'm just watching. So I mean,
So could be continuing something in my day that already gives me joy.
When I wake up.
When I wake up. I'm going to show you. There's something I have for you. That's when you wake up. They suggest do this.
I take a couple minutes every day and just kind of look out the window to break from work. And
I mean, I don't know if you have an office with a view or that's but again, just noticing. This is a beautiful campus, right?
Just noticing the trees and the plants. Just
Nature has a lot of serotonin in it that stimulates a lot of serotonin. So again, noticing
the sky.
the sky, right? So now your task is, you've set an intention. Will you, later on when you go outside, when you go out, because it's just a few minutes practice. One of my favorite quotes is, discipline is remembering what you want. Now, if we don't have an intention, I don't know what I want, then I'm not going to engage those gears, but discipline is remembering what you want. And these practices are so simple, really. All right? Let's see what we have next. So cultivating the green zone, here are the steps. You take a few relaxing breaths. There's this particular writer, Terry Freilich. He wrote a book called 7 Steps to Happiness, and he has another book on the basic skills of mindfulness, and he says this is a beautiful practice to do when you wake up. Again, if you want these slides, just send me an email and I'll send you the slides. So why don't we just do this? I'll give you, go ahead.
I have a quick question. So with the relaxing breaths, we did 3 kinds, and you said the straw is the one that makes you go through. Is that
It triggers
the
the
way-
relaxation response.
Is that the one we're supposed to be doing as opposed to open the mouth?
You can do any one
Or-
you want.
Okay.
You can do any one you want. But like a long exhale through the mouth, yeah. I mean, there's so many different breathing techniques. But if you did, say you wake up in the morning, you're just going to take a nice deep breath in and then you can do whatever you want. And just imagine your whole body just releasing tension. So now, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, I will read these steps and then when you open your eyes, they'll all be there. But let's just dip into this space for just a minute. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, avert your gaze so you're just sort of at a 45-degree angle, because again, that stops a lot of the stimulation from the light around you, right? So let's do step 1. Relaxing breaths. Just have a nice long inhalation and then a nice long exhalation. And you're just imagining that any tension you have, that your body's just releasing it into the chair. It's just being soaked up by the furniture or the building. Just releasing tension. And because the mind wanders and can often wander to a place of worry, just take a moment to tell your alarm system, right now, right here, I am safe. Right now, right here, I am safe. And just for a moment, let something come to mind that you feel grateful for. Something that you appreciate, or someone. Could be a place, could be a person, could be a pet. And just savor that feeling. Savor whatever is positive for you in that. And let a smile come to your face if it brings a smile. Now think of someone that you care for. Open your heart to that person. And just rest in that feeling of being connected. And allow yourself to just connect fully with a sense of safety, contentment, and love that you've been focusing on. Just breathe in those sensations. And just imagine that they're strengthening in you. If you like, you can place both hands over your heart to ground that sense of safety, contentment, and love in your body. Take a nice deep breath in and let it go. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. How was that? Yeah. Again, if you want these slides, I'm happy to send them to you. He says, Terry Freilich says, that's a nice thing to do when you wake up in the morning. This is what's happening inside the body when you're feeling love and gratitude. The body is, I think, 75% water. Water responds very much to vibration and energy. And this is an image that comes from a book by a fellow named Masaru Emoto. It's called Hidden Messages in Water. And he would take water and say things to jars of water, then freeze the water, and when it was crystallizing, slice off the crystals and take pictures of it. And this is what the crystals look like when that water was exposed to expressions of love and gratitude. So Masaru Emoto, you might have fun going online and looking into that. But the idea that when we're feeling grateful, or we're feeling compassion, or we're feeling love, this is what's happening inside the system. Just kind of astonishing. So if we have an intention to be in a more grateful space, we can cultivate that. So the core skills of mindfulness then are clarifying setting and reaffirming intention. Why am I doing this? What do I want in my life? It could be success or security. These techniques are part of the path that can help you recognize opportunities and safely go forward. They're not directly like, I'm going to purchase X, Y, or Z, right? But what is my intention? Then cultivating a witnessing and awareness, an awareness of my awareness. What's happening in my system? Strengthening self-regulation, which is I'm in the red zone and I know some skills to be able to make it to the green zone. I recognize what I'm putting in the field and I can settle myself down, which just taking a few deep breaths brings oxygen into the system and settles down and relaxes the stress response so that you can get back to a point of thinking, what's up here, right? And if you have some routine practice, you're just laying pathways. You're sort of, after a while, when, the stressor happens, instead of going the old way of judgment and blame, it just goes this other way where you go, oh, that's curious. I wonder why they said that. You don't even notice it. Happens over time. Right? Stabilizing attention, which is giving yourself a focus, and practicing loving kindness for self and others. Those are the essential practices or the core skills of mindfulness. Here's another way to practice those skills. And you could do this while we're talking. Bring your attention to and connect with the softening quality of the exhale. Letting your body soften or having a soft exhale is stabilizing attention because you're noticing it, but it's also that part of that relaxation response. Okay? So I think in this case, I'm not sure if the little girl is blowing off, when you pick up dandelions and you blow the, but another very nice mindfulness practice is blowing bubbles. We'll tell people what meditation is gently focusing the breath and watching. Now, who doesn't blow a bubble and not watch? You gently focus the breath and you watch. Stabilizing attention, it's a soft exhale. Check in briefly with your state of mind, emotion, body. How am I really feeling right now? It's cultivating that witness, right? Relax, soften your body. That's the self-regulation. I have choices about how I'm going to feel. I have choices about how I'm going to go through X, Y, or Z. And then being patient and gentle with your state of being, even if you wish it were different. These are the core skills of mindfulness practice and meditation practice. There's a lot of ways. This is just a slide that talks about the power of humming, the wonderful things that are happening inside your system with self-generated sound. So if you like to sing in the shower, you absolutely should. If someone criticizes your singing, enjoy it. Right? To me, that's an amazing list. Who would think? Oxygen, lowered blood pressure. If we compare that to the list of things that are happening when the stress response is triggered, it's a pretty good antidote. Melatonin is a natural substance that helps with sleep. We know there are a lot of stress-related hormones, cortisol being the number one. Endorphins are natural pleasure. Oxytocin is a chemical by which we feel connected, right? So it's present in mother's breast milk when they're feeding, but they also say if you have a dog and you're petting the dog is experiencing a release of oxytocin and the human being is experiencing a release of oxytocin. Okay? Mindfulness for adults helps us deal with stress in a clear-minded way. So they say get curious, not furious. Okay? Curiosity is like a platform of emotion in the brain. So if like you go to TJ Maxx, you go to a flea market, people are they're like awake, right? It's like a seeking behavior, right? So we'll say, be curious. Be curious about what your experience is. I don't know if you've heard of the HALT rule, but we will advise people, when you get stressed, like, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Do I need to eat? Do I need to rest? Do I need to talk to someone? And again, mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So this slide, well, at least that part of the slide comes from someone who teaches mindfulness in schools. He says, you know what? That's what teaching is. Paying attention on purpose in the moment, non-judgmentally. That's what learning is. Paying attention in the moment, non-judgmentally. Particular kind of attention. So the research from Richie Davidson says if you practice meditation 6 minutes a day, there are many wonderful driveway meditators. Home and just stay in their car an extra 5 minutes. The amygdala shrinks, the prefrontal cortex thickens, the hippocampus also increases in size. The amygdala is less active following a meditation practice. Mindfulness meditation has been proven to activate, again, the thinking part of the brain, which is most commonly associated with regulating emotions. The hippocampus, which is critical to memory and emotional regulation, is more active following a breath-focused mindfulness training. And when they've worked with kids in classrooms, they use mindful classroom sort of meditation activities. The atmosphere, the students' emotional handling of conflict resolution and teacher self-regulation is improved, right? So often when you're working with someone who you are teaching and they're distressed, the best thing you can do is bring yourself to that steady, what are you giving to the field, right? If you don't have awareness, you're not going to notice. Right? You're going to just be in the moment. Like, why isn't Susie listening to me? I don't know. So we end with where we began. Sometimes the most important time in the whole day is the rest we take between 2 deep breaths. So we have about another 15 minutes. We can do a meditation together if you like, or we can, if you've got what you came for, then we can say there's a lot of serotonin in nature. We're going to go outside and breathe or look at the sky. What would you like to do? Go for a walk on this beautiful day, or sit and do a little bit of, if you'd like to do them. And people can pick and choose. So anyone who wants to stay, so do a little meditation. Are you up for a walk or a meditation? You can leave and walk if you feel like. In other words, what we're doing is, right, noticing in particular, intentionally, without judgment, what would you like to do right now? Do you feel like walking? Do you feel like sitting and doing a guided meditation? Entirely up to you. But since I see no one moving, okay. Everybody else wants to meditate for a little bit? Okay. Just a short one. Again, notice that, right? Like, what's pulling on you? How are you deciding? What comes up? I don't know. I have microphones in my pockets. I don't know if I'm going to disturb something here. Okay. So a nice way to begin this is to have your feet on the floor. And let the furniture support you. There's nothing for you to do right now but to just be here. And start to notice if your body, if you're comfortable. Take a nice deep breath in and let it go. Another nice deep breath in and let it go. Take your attention to the environment. Just notice the sounds around you. There's some air conditioning sounds. Some voices in the hallway. The door closing or opening. Just accept all of the sounds around you. Be in harmony with your environment. Take a nice deep breath in and let it go. Take your attention to your feet. Just notice where your feet are in touch with the floor. Bring your attention to your ankles. Your calves. Your knees. Your thighs. Notice the energy of your attention as you direct it, scanning your body. Feel that energy, focus on the buttocks, genitals, stomach, chest, your back. As the energy of your attention as you scan the body. Notice your shoulders, your arms, your hands. Your neck, your face, your head, the whole body. Filled with the warm energy of your attention. Body is a beautiful gift from nature. Be in harmony with your body. Take a nice deep breath in and let it go. take your attention to your thoughts. Just watch your thoughts. Good thoughts, bad thoughts, let them be. Be in harmony with your thoughts. Take a nice deep breath in and let it go. Take your attention to your feelings. However you're feeling, just notice, just watch. You are peace. You are joy. You are love. Be in harmony with your feelings. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it go. Be in harmony with your thoughts. Take a nice deep breath in and let it go. Be in harmony with your body. Take a nice deep breath in and let it go. Be in harmony with your surroundings. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it go. And whenever you're ready, you can come back to this room. Are we good? I think it's like 1:29. So, thank you for making the time.